So I think if you strip away all of those expectations, obligations, and opinions, what you're left with, if you live in alignment with that, then you're thinking like a monk. So if you're in a really tough situation right now, don't look for positivity. Don't look for happiness. Look for meaning. So I really believe in immersive experiences. I love the 10-minute-a-day advice, but I also deeply believe in having a deep, immersive, absorbed experience.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 to 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 to 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Jay Shetty, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Start with compassion.
Start with compassion, right? Just start with compassion. One of the worst things we can do to ourselves is judge ourselves. When we use critical judgment on ourselves, when we start looking down on ourselves, when we feel that we're bad people for feeling this way, we're only pushing away our inner voice and making it feel more quiet. We do that to ourselves all the time. When you judge yourself and you think, oh, I'm such a bad person for feeling like this, immediately you're stopping yourself from growth. Whenever you feel any thought in the mind, remember envy, jealousy, greed, anger. These aren't you, right? They are all figments, they are all aspects, they're all facets or behaviors of our mind. You're separate from your mind, right? Just as we're separate from these bodies, you're separate from your mind. You're pure consciousness, right? You like knowledge, you like wisdom, you like having other people achieve stuff. You like seeing success because we have that purity that's in there. But our mind is kind of like a shadow that overcasts all of that, and then we start believing we're our mind. When we start believing we're our mind, we start believing that we're bad, that we're greedy, that we're envious. The truth is we aren't. We aren't egotistic. We've just let that shadow become such a big part of our reality that we've adopted that as our personality. We've adopted that to how we feel.
Rule number 2, look for meaning.
So how does someone find purpose in chaos when they can't even get out of the thinking because they're just trying to survive?
Yeah. So beautiful question. My biggest answer is, first of all, I empathize with anyone who's been in that situation. I can't ever say I've been in that situation in the same way, but I've experienced similar things.
You've seen a feeling in your life.
Yeah, in my own way. And I've seen my mom go through stuff like that. I know that my mom worked really hard to raise me and my sister while working, you know, while running around. And I've seen my mom be that incredible powerhouse of a person. And the main thing I would say is, what you can do right now is find meaning in what you do. Make what you do meaningful, passionate, and purposeful. You don't need to suddenly look to become an entrepreneur or start a side hustle or find some more time. Find meaning. And the way you find meaning, as you genuinely stop, press pause for a second and go, what am I living for? Like, what am I living for right now? And if you're living for your child, and if you're living to provide and put food on the table, that is a beautiful thing that we should celebrate more. Yeah. And sometimes it takes us a moment to stop and celebrate that. And so I would say find meaning, because you can't always find happiness, you can't always find positivity, but you can always find meaning in that position. So I'll give an example. Like, I lost someone really important to me, a mentor, a few days back. I can't be positive about that. You can't be happy about that. Yeah,
it's hurtful.
You feel sad, you feel lost, but guess what? I can find meaning in it. Because I can make a list of every lesson he taught me and make a plan to try and live every one of those lessons.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And so if you're in a really tough situation right now, don't look for positivity. Don't look for happiness. Look for meaning.
Rule number 3, find your interests.
The word dharma means a lot of things, and it's always hard to translate ancient Sanskrit words into modern day English, but the closest two definitions are your true nature and your eternal purpose. So it's almost like this is something that's already existing. It's already almost part of your DNA and part of your makeup. And it's allowing that to be completely unleashed. But I break it down in the book to make it really simple, because just like you, the amount of people that say to me, Jay, what's my passion? What's my purpose? So I use Dharma to be described as the word purpose. And then I create this formula or this mathematical equation for how to unlock purpose. And to make it simple, and obviously people can dive into the book and do the questions and everything else that's in there, it's passion plus strengths plus compassion equals purpose. And I'm gonna say that again because I love to break it down, because I'm gonna break each of these down for you as well, that passion plus strengths plus compassion equals purpose or dharma. And this is also similar with the concept of ikigai in the Japanese terminology, which is reason for being. So you find these in a lot of ancient traditions, but now let's focus on the word passion. How do you know what your passion is? So to break it down, I've been thinking that purpose is like an adult, passion is like a teenager, interest is like a child, and curiosity is the womb. So the birthplace of passion is actually curiosity and interest. And I think we waste so much time trying to be like, what am I really passionate about? What do I really believe in? That's going to take years to figure out. And I've heard you say this too. That's going to take experimenting. It's going to take testing. But the thing you can start with right now is the simplest form of, what am I curious about? What am I interested in? Let me take a course on that, or let me take a seminar on that, or let me go and try that, or let me shadow someone who's done that. And that experimenting process is the only way to unlock your passion.
Rule number 4, think like a monk.
The monkey mind is what we experience on a day-to-day basis. The monkey mind is restless. The monkey mind is jumping from branch to branch. The monkey mind's trying to find a bigger banana. The monkey mind is constantly just like feeling flustered, dissatisfied, scarce, and overthinking everything. The monk mind is the exact opposite. The monk mind is calm and composed. The monk mind knows to be focused and aware. The monk mind knows. So everything in this book and everything that we're talking about is the transformation from the monkey mind that we experience to the monk mind. The monkey mind is almost the enemy to the monk mind. It's the opposite.
Yes.
Hey everyone, I have been reading a bit from my friend's book, Evan Carmichael, Built to Serve, and I wanted to share this with you. So, according to a study by Carnegie Mellon University, people with supportive spouses are more likely to give themselves the chance to succeed. They studied 163 married couples and found that people with supportive spouses were more likely to take on potentially rewarding challenges. Those who accepted challenges experienced more personal growth, happiness, and psychological well-being. Now, I can truly say that I've experienced that in my life. When I first met my wife, I was just starting out. I had never released a video. I hadn't created any content, and she was such an important part of feeling supported on that journey. So whether you're in a relationship, whether you're dating, whether you're married, or even if you're single, being supported by friends and a strong community is important. Built to Serve by Evan Carmichael. Great book on how you can find your purpose, and also on reminding us that we can all make a difference in the world. Thanks, Evan.
Rule number 5, immerse yourself more.
I read an incredible study that changed the way I create and think. And it said that the human mind can't be logical and creative at the same time. How many of you have ever walked from a highly creative brainstorm where you were fueled with passion and then had to talk about numbers and business and, right? It's tough, right? Anyone ever found that quite difficult? It's quite challenging, and the mind's like trying to run from one side of the brain to the other side of the brain. So what I do is I create in depth. So I go really deep into my creation, and then I go really deep into everything else that I have to do. So before I went to India, I created my content in advance. And so when I was in India, I was able to really switch off. So the beauty of being able to be in India for 21 or 30 days, or wherever I am in the world for that matter, I'm then not having to think of creativity as stress or pressure. I'm able to do creativity as a form of passion and service. And so when I was in India, I was able to not look at Instagram. I was able to not look at Facebook. I was able to completely switch off for 21 days when I was there earlier in January. And I started my year in the way I wanted to. So I was meditating for 8 hours a day. I was spending time with my teachers who are mind-blowing and incredible and trying to learn from them and taking knowledge and wisdom from them and continuously praying to be of more service this year and make a difference this year. So that's how I chose to spend my January. And I had so many people saying to me, they were just like, Jay, it's January. Things are going well in your career. How can you take 21 days off? Right? That pressure, that noise of like, things are going good for you. How can you take time off? I was like, things are going good because I'm doing this. Right? Like, you know, I had one of my teachers that has kept saying to me for years, he goes, if you want to move 3 steps forward, you have to go 3 steps deep. And so if I'm not going forward, I know it's because I haven't gone deep. So for me, that's a big priority for me. And that's what I try and do. And I try and do that every day, but I also believe in immersive experiences. So a lot of us today, we live in this world which is like 10 minutes a day. Do it for 10 minutes a day, everything will be great. And that is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But imagine you spent, with a boy or a girl, your partner, whoever it was, someone that you just started dating. Imagine you spent 10 minutes a day with them. How long would it take you to figure out whether you wanted to fall in love with them or not? Probably a long time. And so when you go immersive, if you spend a weekend away with someone, you know whether you like them or not. And meditation, mindfulness, all these habits are the same. The more you immerse yourself, the more you get an experience that stays with you, the more that you can live with that experience and keep going back to it for 10 minutes a day. So I really believe in immersive experiences. I love the 10-minute a day advice, but I also deeply believe in having a deep, immersive, absorbed experience that completely takes over your whole body, mind, and soul.
Rule number 6, don't measure yourself by numbers.
We're wired for generosity, but we're educated for greed. I think I just said it to you 2 years ago when I was on the podcast.
Yes.
And it's like, and when I said that in the statement,
so
it was, and it's so true. We're wired for generosity, but we're educated for greed, because what happens is when we're kids, you'll see kids
you want to share.
go out their way. They want to share.
It's part of my candy bar, whatever,
totally,
right?
Yeah. And then as we get older, we're told that there's less. And this is what the key is. As we get older, we're told there are finite numbers of how many kids get made onto the basketball or baseball team.
Yes.
We're told there's a finite number of college spaces. We're told there's a finite number of how many tickets there are. We're told there's a finite number of people that are successful. Guess what? In the theater of happiness, there are infinite and unlimited seats. And there is a seat with your name on it.
That's so good.
There is a seat with your name on it in the theater of dreams, in the theater of happiness. But you think that because you think that there are only 100 people allowed in, that if someone else makes it before you, that you don't get in. And guess what? Is there a cap on how many billionaires there are in the world?
No.
No. Is there a cap on how many millionaires there are in the world?
No.
No. Is there a cap on how many happy people there are in the world? No. And that's why I really am encouraging Forbes. I want Forbes, forget printing a rich list, print a happy list, print a service list, print a list of who is
We should
serving.
do that. We should do that.
Who is serving the most in the world?
Wow.
Right?
That'll be competition based.
Yeah, sure.
I gave more than you gave.
Yeah, and that's why it should be service based on time, energy, and money. Because we should start showing how much time people give, how much energy people give. Mother Teresa, I don't think she gave any money to her charities.
Right.
But she gave a lot of time and energy.
Yeah.
You know, you look at all the people who made a change in the world, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, like, they may not have given a lot of money to stuff.
Yeah,
They gave time and energy.
You don't have to give resources, but your resourcefulness, your love, your
Love
time,
that.
your focus, your attention, your compassion.
Love that.
Resourcefulness of the heart, not of the wallet, I think is
Love
key.
that.
And you don't need to have a lot of money to make a big impact.
You don't. There's and this is the training. See, we've been educated for greed because we've been told everything's limited. There's limited number of this, limited number of this, number. And every time you play in numbers, and I think it was Bob Marley who said it, but every time you play in numbers, you'd always be dissatisfied because guess what?
Someone's always have more.
Someone's always gonna have more. I was speaking to a friend recently, and this friend was telling me that he bought a home, which is very expensive.
Yes.
Very, very expensive. And he went to a party at someone else's house. And he told me that when he was getting a tour of this party, he found out that this person had a painting on his wall which cost the amount his house cost.
Shut up.
And so he was joking with me. He was like, that guy's painting
in the house.
He's got my house on his wall.
Wow.
And that just puts things into perspective. And you think about that, like, and then you look at someone like Jeff Bezos and you think, oh, well, he's the richest man in the world, but does he have the most fame? No, he doesn't.
Right.
Does he have the most beauty? Subjective decision. Does he have the most strength or power? Maybe not. And so no one has the most of everything. So when you measure yourself by numbers, you'll always be second, third, fourth, fifth in something.
Rule number 7, do the breath work.
For me, breathwork's really important because I really feel that we experience one of two things. We're either experiencing our mind ahead of our body. So everyone's had that experience where their mind's racing and the body's like, ugh, I'm just tired, put me back in bed. Or we experience the other extreme, which is the mind's feeling really tired and the body's having to rush around. So the mind's like, oh, give me a break. But the body's like, no, but I need to do this and this. And so for me, breathwork really realigns my mind and my body in the morning and brings it back together. Because when I wake up, I can be really creative sometimes. Be like, oh my God, I've got a million ideas of videos I want to make. And I'm like, no, look, just calm down. The body's not ready yet. You know, or you wake up and if you do, which I really avoid now, but if you do look at your phone first thing, you've got all these messages coming in. Your mind has to go from 0 to 100 miles per hour in 2 seconds, literally like the fastest car in the world. And the body's just like, oh, look, just give me a break. I just woke up. And so for me, Vipassana and breathwork just allows me to align my body and mind. So that's why I do it.
Rule number 8, live a life in alignment.
I want to know, how close to encapsulating the notion of thinking like a monk can you get? Like if you were to give somebody just a nutshell notion of what that means, what would you say?
I'd say it means to live a life in alignment. And what that means is that you live a life where what you think, what you say, and what you do are aligned with your truest self. And what I mean by your truest self is the self that was not given to you by your parents or by your education or by media or movies, or not the self that you've created to function in the world. So I think if you strip away all of those expectations, obligations, and opinions, what you're left with, if you live in alignment with that, then you're thinking like a monk.
Rule number 9, find your daily habits.
I take out 21 to 30 days every year to go and live back with the monks where I used to live in India. So I lived as a monk for 3 years. And every day I've made it a priority to continue my meditation practice, which is currently 2 hours a day. It's been that way for the last 13 years. It's been the bedrock and foundation of my life. So to that very big question that Vishen asked me, my first piece of advice would be finding your daily rituals, finding your daily habits, finding your practices that act as the foundation, because we're living in such busy, hectic, crazy times. How many of you know that you have a schedule and still half of the things don't happen on that schedule? Right? Anyone ever been in that position? Or how many of you go through that process where you start watching something really educational on YouTube and then 2 videos later you're watching something about Justin Bieber's mum, right? And it's like, and then you're like, how did I get there? Like, how did that happen? And you end up getting lost in this world. And so whether it's in a small way of getting lost through the content, rabbit hole, or whether it's getting lost by getting distracted from what's really meaningful to you, for me, refining my intentions on a daily basis is one of my favorite habits.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is visualize.
I am such a huge fan of visualization.
Oh, go on, tell us. I like that as well because it's vivid. Go on.
The first time I started hearing about visualization was when I realized that David Beckham visualized free kicks before he took them. Lewis Hamilton visualized the racetrack before he races.
He visualizes it, does he?
He visualizes himself driving the car on that racetrack because he knows what the track looks like, obviously. So he's visualizing how he's taking that bend, how he's taking each part of the car, etc. And same with Beckham taking free kicks. And when I started thinking about it, I thought, oh wow, that's pretty cool. And that was the first time I'd come across it. And for me, it wasn't visualization as a meditation then. I just thought, this is cool. Here are some cool people doing it. And then I started to do it before I go on stage when I'm speaking at an event. I'll visualize myself walking onto stage. I'll visualize myself saying the first thing. So whenever I'm doing something that's pressureful or anything that I feel stressed towards, I visualize myself doing it the way I want to first, which almost reduces the experience when you actually go out there. Because you've lived that life once. The next time you walk out there, you've taken away the stress and the anxiety.
Even if it wasn't a performance thing or a high level thing such as Lewis Hamilton, would you recommend it? Say you have to have a conversation with someone.
Totally. If you've got to have a conversation with someone that's really challenging, observe and visualize yourself saying what you need to say, visualize yourself in their seat, listening to you, and then visualize yourself as an observer too.
Now I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and how are you going to take action on it this week. When you schedule in what day, what time, and what place you're going to take action, you have a 91% chance of actually following through versus just a 35% chance if you just got motivated but never created a specific plan. And when you share your plan publicly and have some accountability, you increase your chances even further of actually following through. So I want to know your single biggest takeaway and your plan of action this week in the comments so I can celebrate you.
And so what I do every day is I'll look at the plethora of options that I have available, all of the things, whether it's deals, ideas, thoughts, projects, offers, whatever it is. And on top of all of them, I'll write down why I would do that. And if the reason is often ego, pride, envy, competition, jealousy, and sometimes it's compassion, love, joy, passion, purpose, meaning, fulfillment. And so what I like to do is I like to refine my intentions, which I class as seeds and weeds every day. So I want to plant more seeds in the garden of my life. Seeds are things that are like compassion, love, purpose, fulfillment, meaning, joy, service. And weeds are when we do things out of ego, envy, competition. And so every day, I'm plucking out the weeds out of my life, and I'm trying to plant more seeds. How many of you want to be gardeners with me? Yeah? And I do that every day because it's so easy for me to confuse the weeds as seeds. It's so often that I've let ego grow so strong inside of me, and it took me forever to notice that was a weed. So I have to do it every day. So that's one of my biggest pieces of advice. I do it every single day. It's made a huge difference in making sure I make the right choices, the right decisions with people, places, and projects that I'm involved in. And when you refine that intention, and it gets purer and purer and purer, not that we're ever fully pure, but it gets purer and purer and purer, you'll just see magic happen around you.
If you want to change your life for free in the next 30 days, check out my training right here below. Or if you want 10 more awesome rules from Jay Shetty, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy them. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.